Hi, I'm Reed, this is Crowland Publishing, and today we're not going to do a video about D&D, we're going to do a video about why you should play Call of Cthulhu. So, H.P. Lovecraft. Now, lots been said about Lovecraft over the years, we're not going to go into it now, but the guy was a visionary of horror. Lovecraft stories are... man, I could talk about Lovecraft for hours, but simply, Lovecraft stories are based on the premise that the Earth, the universe, truly belongs to ancient beings, powerful, alien, and mighty beyond our conception. The great old ones and their servants. And when the stars come right, these entities will awaken, and then they won't kill us. Most people think that it's just Godzilla, but they will bring us revelations, they will teach us things, they will bring us knowledge about their masters, the outer gods, and they will destroy us as a species. We just won't be able to cope with the true reality of the universe. All humans can really do is delay the stars coming right. There are cultists that are trying to speed up this process. There are entities that are trying to speed up this process. It's going to happen. It is just gravity. It's just a fundamental fact of the universe. So Call of Cthulhu, this sounds nihilistic and gloomy, I know, but only because it is. But Call of Cthulhu is ultimately a game of optimism. It is about snatching what victories from these monstrous creatures you can today. So Call of Cthulhu, COC, is essentially at its heart about investigating these monsters, investigating the people that serve them, and doing what you can to stop them and the cruel schemes of the cults who worship them. And it is quite brilliant. Now, again, CSC has such a long history. Some of the best designers of all times have written in it. Some of the best researchers of all times have written in it. It just has an amazing collection of people who have worked on Call of Cthulhu, because it just brings out the best in a whole bunch of different designers. Now, before we go on, Call of Cthulhu is a horrible game. There are horrible things that can happen. Terrible things do happen to PCs. They do happen to NPCs. Sometimes there's guts all over the place. Sometimes there's dudes getting sucked up into space where the great gods can feast on their souls for 1,000,000 years. If you can't or won't engage in horrible things happening, Call of Cthulhu is not the game for you. Now, Call of Cthulhu also represents a very different kind of game than D&D, because you don't really adventure. You aren't trying to get rich. You aren't trying to foil orcs and dragons. You aren't trying to become a king. You are mortal. You are very easy to kill. Violence is rarely a solution. And being smart, being scholarly, being clever is a lot more effective than knowing how to use a battle axe. So PCs are often scholars, historians, artists, scientists, antiquarians. When you start out, you get a lot of Rick McConnell from The Mummy, like guys who would just, I don't care about your goddamn fancy book learning. Give me my Browning. I'm going to go and shoot that werewolf in the face. And then you realize that, that's not going to work out. It's 25 million years old, and it's not a werewolf. So that guy quickly dies, and eventually you get around to re-rolling a wheelchair-bound anthropologist or something. So the basic model for an adventure for all these big-brain NPCs is that your characters become aware of a problem. Maybe your cousin dies gruesomely and you get a telegraph, come to Manor House, stop. His head was found in his bottom, stop. Maybe you've bought a bizarre statue and when you touch it, monstrous things begin to happen. Maybe someone who you know has read a book of black magic and summoned something terrible to the old caves. Maybe a friend of yours has joined a cult and now wants to kill you because your death is their ritual, entry point into the cult. And slowly but surely, as you investigate, you become aware of more and more monstrous forces. And I think that part of the real appeal of COC is this: you cannot really meaningfully fight these monstrous forces, not with violence anyway, and all of your victories are just today's victories. And I think that that is what separates COC from D&D more than anything else. You must have plans and strategies to beat the beasts. You cannot win with swords and guns. Maybe you can trap it. Maybe you can use some complex ritual to drive it away. More than one Call of Cthulhu game has ended with heavy machinery dropping 100 tons of scrap metal onto a giant, sleeping, half-material psychic dragon and hoping that the 50 years that will remain trapped is going to be enough, because that's all you can meaningfully do. Also, Lovecraft created some of the most awesome monsters in all of horror fiction. I'm a particular fan of Shoggoths. I love the Great Race of Yith. I love them all. If you are tired of throwing orcs and kobolds and hobgoblins up against your guys, against your PCs, just go and have a read of the Call of Cthulhu monsters. They are just awesome. So what this means is that COC games are about more than anything else mood, tension, ratcheted up, slow revelations. That means the entity was wearing his skin as a mask, and then eventually fear. Oh my god, it's alive! And the rules actually really work to reinforce this sense. You can die very easily in COC. If someone shoots you, your professor of Assyrian orthography, she dies because she got shot by a bloody bullet. She's not a superhuman. When the fishman bites your head off, you die because the fishman bit your bloody head off. But you should be aware that being scared with a group of friends at the table, feeling spooked and creeped out together, is loads of fun. It really is. It is watching a horror movie in a big group of people kind of fun. But just really quick, I should just say this, due diligence. As a GM, I encourage people to let me know what their limit is. And of course, at any time, they can just say, oh, time out. Oh, no, too much. So, but more than dying of violence, what PC should really fear is what I think is the best mechanic in all of role-playing games, Call of Cthulhu's sanity. So madness and insanity are important elements of Lovecraftian fiction. Psychotic breaks, falling apart. The human mind cannot handle the true nature of reality in Lovecraftian fiction. I think that's underlying the entire genre of cosmic horror. You learn things that snap your mind. And your ability to face reality is in D&D the sanity stat. Now, COC is a percentile system, and so sanity is rated 1 to 100. So you take your sanity from your power stats, a derived stat. Power is your mental strength, and it's kind of like the god stat of the game. And so when you encounter horrible violence or monstrous entities or weird revelations about the universe, any kind of nasty psychic shock, sanity is threatened. You roll under your sanity stat, you shake it off. Fail, and you lose sanity. And if you lose sanity, the keeper tells you your next action, and usually that's you scream or try to get away or whatever. And of course, the next time you try to roll sanity, your sanity is weaker, it's less, so it's easier and easier to get into this kind of death spiral. But sanity is a little bit more complicated than just a death spiral, because if you do lose sanity, you get to make an idea roll, which is based on intelligence, kind of like a wisdom and int in D&D is power and int in COC. But if you fail this kind of saving throw, you block out the insanity. Your mind just goes, no, I'm blocking it out. I don't understand it. I refuse to process this. But if you succeed on your intelligence check, your rational mind is wounded. You're smart enough to understand what you have really seen. And that sends you temporarily insane. Now, temporary insanity is some of the most fun you can have in a role-playing game. I genuinely believe that. After you've lost a certain amount of san in a short enough amount of time, you develop some kind of psychosis. Now, maybe you develop another personality. Maybe you become terrified and a double is following you. Maybe you feel like God has chosen you specifically to deal with these demons. But the idea is that you get to act theatrically insane, and it is fun as hell. I think 3 memorable temporary insanity experiences that I've had at my table was that one guy said, okay, I'm temporarily insane. Monsters are not real. And this was right near the climax of the session, so when the horrible tentacle thing from Beyond Time appears, he's like, nope, it's not real. Of course it's not real. Obviously, he horribly died. I had one very nice old, I'm a professor of Celtic studies and I'm a grandmother of 7, and also I've started serial killing various members of my university faculty because they were evil. And I stole this basically from a computer game called Eternal Darkness, Sanity, Requiem, I can't recall. But I got a bit meta with it. I started to talk to the PC, not the player, about how the PC became aware that they were just a little bit of fiction created by a cruel and merciless woman who had invented her to put her through these horrible torments just for her pleasure. So that the PC began to hate the actual player at the table. And it got quite intense and weird, and I had to get a timeout on that, but it worked really well. So if you are looking to do more artistic GM flourishes, Call of Cthulhu, it's loads and loads of fun. And if nothing else, you do get to go, me? I'm not mad. You are the ones who are mad. I've got to put underpants on my head to ward off demons. It's so much ace. But there's a little coda to why sanity is the best mechanic in all of RPG. There is a Cthulhu Mythos skill. Now, essentially, this is just what you know about the true secrets of the universe sort of thing. It allows you to recognize monsters, the occasional bit of magic. But the thing is that your Cthulhu Mythos skill directly has a 1-on-1 minus effect on your sanity. So if you have 10% Cthulhu Mythos, your maximum sanity is a -10. If you have 50% Cthulhu Mythos skill, You can never have over 50% sanity. You are trapped by knowledge. The more you know, the worse things are going to be for you. And I think that watching sanity trickle down is a classic RPG experience. It's exciting, it's tense, and the thing is that you're going to win when you get to a sanity breakpoint anyway, because either you get to go and have a cool experience of, all of you are made of monster cheese, or you get to go, oh man, I survived. I'm still here. I'm still compos mentis. Now, that model of 1930s investigation is a very strong one and a very good one, and I highly recommend you at least play 1 or 2 adventures in it, but it does get a bit old. And people have realized that over the years and have created all these fantastic, new and interesting and exciting models for how to play Call of Cthulhu. I think the best one is Delta Green. Fantastic game. Espionage Cthulhu. The deal is that a group of FBI and CIA types in the 1930s found out about the mythos. Some of them joined mythos entities. Some of them went rogue to fight them. Now, Delta Green is very much a product of late 90s millennial UFO culture, but Delta Green is also a fantastic RPG. It's great if you like a bit more action than is traditional in COC. You really can. Not often, but you can break out machine guns and call in SWAT teams and raid the sewers where the cultists summoned up their monster fungus god. And there's also some interesting takes on the Cthulhu mythos themselves. I'm particularly fond of their King in Yellow mythos. If you've ever seen first season True Detective, that's very much inspired, I think, by Delta Green's King in Yellow mythos. There's also a fantastic, really quite different take on Lovecraftian entities, which is all about time monsters. It's all about these various entities trying to replace our timeline with their timeline. There's H.P. Lovecraft doing fantasy. My take, a book I wrote called Dread Empire of San Chan. You might try Cthulhu Invictus for Roman-era Cthulhu. There's a fantastic adventure set in the Russian tractor factory in the 1950s. There's modern Cthulhu. There's Pirates Cthulhu. There's future Cthulhu. There's far future Cthulhu. But it doesn't really matter, because at the core, the very heart of Call of Cthulhu is always going to be careful, tense investigation against a foe that you cannot defeat except through cleverness and through mental determination, and the knowledge that your PC is not going to come out unscathed. Ask your players to give you 2 or 3 sessions to really try and make this kind of adventure come alive, and tell them that they will enjoy it, because there is something to be said for not being a big tough hero, and there is also something to be said for knowing that you solved the adventure with your brains and your cleverness and through your sense of observation. COC is a fantastic game. I really do recommend that you just give D&D a rest for a little bit and give it a try. Next time, superheroes. I'm Reed, this is Crowland Publishing. See you next time.